Fine. Why should I?
My sister has written to me about a naturopath in Munich who has extraordinary results curing nervous ailments. I decided to go to Munich and try it.
Oh no, Fran, this would not be advisable at all. We have only just begun a course of treatments that requires...
There. I said you would think ill of me.
My dear lady, I do not think ill of you. It is only that I cannot allow
My
you...
dear doctor, I cannot allow you to prolong a treatment that has been, let us say, as helpful as it's going to be. Oh, it takes away my pains for a day or two, but they return.
Mother, you sent for me?
Dr. Freud, you remember meeting my daughter, Elizabeth?
Frau Emmy, I beg you to continue trusting in my care. It's really a matter of weeks before we can evaluate the progress.
Don't touch, doctor. I'm leaving you another patient in my place.
Madame, you were right. I do think ill of you.
I told you about Elizabeth's pains when she walked. You yourself asked me about her limp.
Mother, I must go with you.
Oh, no, dear. I am through dragging you with me from one faint hook to the next. You must put your needs first. You must do everything Dr. Freud suggests. Dr. Kaufman, the gynecologist, believes that her walking problems are due to a retroverted uterus. Is that possible?
Yes, quite possible. Has he given you abdominal massages, Fräulein?
Yes, sir. And exercises to do 4 times a day.
And did that help?
Dr. Kaufman says my uterus is turned around the proper way now, but I feel
But
like...
she complains of a sore area on her leg. Show the doctor. I thought that your hypnosis might be able to help her.
Perhaps so, perhaps. Would you like to come and see me at the clinic, Elizabeth?
If you think hypnosis will cure me.
I am not sure that hypnosis is the way, but if you will come around 2 o'clock tomorrow, we shall see what we can do. I find it hard to concentrate on the daughter's case while still smarting from the mother's resistance to my care. Frau Emmy would have been a very important case for me. I mean, for psychoanalysis. But I am later to learn that I am only one in a long string of doctors whom she at first tantalized with diminished symptoms, then dropped like spurned sweetness in favor of her true love, her neurotic illness, trick teaser. The whole masquerade served as a means of control for the daughter, as a matter of fact, as much as to keep the doctors courting her. Fortunately, Fräulein Elizabeth turned out to be one of my most successful early cases. Fräulein, exactly when did these pains begin?
I don't know. About 3 years ago.
After your father?
Yes, I suppose so. Around that time.
Can you remember the very first time you felt the pains?
Not really.
Maybe I can help you remember.
By hypnotizing me.
Perhaps that won't be necessary. I want you to lean against my hand as I press against your forehead. Close your eyes. Now, at the moment I remove my hand, you will recall the very first time you had the leg pains. What came into your mind?
Nothing to do with my leg.
But you did remember something.
I remembered coming home from a party at the Christmas when I was 17.
You came home, and
I do remember when they started. I used to rest Father's leg there when I helped him exercise. You see, he couldn't leave his bed, and this is embarrassing to talk about. Well, I suppose nothing shocks you, Doctor. I don't want you to think what I felt was of a sexual nature. I am sure it wasn't that. After all, it was only his leg, the leg of a 55-year-old man in a weak and feeble condition. But I remember thinking, I am stroking a man's leg, or something like that. And I was sure he wouldn't feel anything inappropriate. But just sort of wondered if one were a nurse in a military hospital, and if the patient were a young soldier, and if one stroked him like this, would it be dangerous? I got up from his bed thinking, I must have sat in one position too long with his heavy leg resting on me. But it's never gone away.
So that was earlier than the onset of the stiffness in your walking.
I suppose so. Perhaps a year earlier.
Our time is up for today. Can you come every day at the same time? I should warn you that it may take several weeks before we get to the root of the problem.
I would be so happy if your talking cure actually takes my pains away. Should I try to remember the first time I had the problem walking?
No, my dear, there is no homework. I will see you at 2 o'clock tomorrow. Rather a contrast, eh? Between the hostile resistance that sends the mother to a knackered laugh in Munich, and the alacrity by which the daughter promises to devote herself to the talking cure. But rest assured, we shall encounter resistance in the daughter's case as well, and more than that delicacy that stopped her from saying that she observed her father's erection just then. Resistance is almost always as great as the desire for help. This is the first time in the course of these lectures that I have touched upon sex quite so explicitly. Allow me to say that psychoanalysis sees no occasion for euphemisms. With material so important, we shall call everything by its true name. And the fact that I am speaking to a mixed audience can make no difference in this. You women present, by appearing in this room, have tacitly expressed your desire to be treated on the same footing as the men. Well, Elizabeth, have you remembered that which I told you to not bother trying to remember?
Yes. I didn't try to remember, but I do remember now.
What?
When my affliction began, this limping, we were in Carlsbad the summer before last. My sister, Lily, the middle one, she was in the 3rd month of her pregnancy. She was terribly ill. The morning sickness, they call it. Only she was sick all day and all night. Gunther, my brother-in-law, asked me to go with them to Carlsbad in order to help Lily. I lived with them all that summer.
This is the sister who died?
Yes.
Tell me more about, where does Gunther live?
That is a big family issue now. Because after Lily died, Mother wanted us to keep the child, but he insisted. And then he moved to Berlin.
I see. Anyway, you were staying in Lily's house that summer, and she was ill, and you remember when you began to walk with a limp.
We had been out for a long walk, up the pass to see the falls. There's a kind of inn up there, and we must have walked about 10 kilometers, and stopped for a glass of wine, and then on the way home. I think we left about noon, and didn't return until evening.
A very long walk for your sister, being with child.
No, just Gunther and myself. Anyway, that night my legs stiffened up, and the next day I couldn't walk at all. We thought it was just overexertion, you know. We even laughed about it. But it's never gotten better. Dr. Kaufman helped me a little.
Tell me more about that afternoon you spent with Gunther.
I don't remember much. I haven't thought of it from that day until now.
What comes to you now?
Only that it was the last time I could walk without pain or stiffness in my legs. Yes, I shall. Why should I not pretend?
My dear sister-in-law, it is not fair of you to pretend to be my sweetheart when I as a married man may not pretend to be yours.
I don't care if it's fair or not. It's the loveliest day of summer, and other girls are out walking with their sweethearts, and I shall pretend what I choose.
But suppose an eligible bachelor comes by and fails to recognize you as a potential sweetheart for him.
You and Lily are supposed to be finding one for me, didn't you know?
No one told me that. What are your specifications?
He must be this tall, have a blonde mustache, wear glasses.
Eyeglasses? Elizabeth, a girl as pretty as you deserves a man with good eyesight.
No, intellectual. He must wear glasses.
Well, other things are more important. Frau Emmy will insist that he be rich.
An intellectual. He will never be rich.
Well, he must be very clever.
Why? Am I not clever enough for both of us?
And modest.
No, he should think well of himself.
So, for a long time, you have been in love with your brother-in-law.
No. Oh, these pains. Oh my God, my legs. Doctor, is there nothing you can do for my pain?
That was more than idle flirtation.
No. Oh God, my legs.
Think, Elizabeth. Think of what your fantasies were.
Yes, I shall. Why should I not pretend?
My dear sister-in-law, it is not fair of you to pretend to be my sweetheart when I, as a married man, may not pretend to be yours.
I don't care if it's fair or not. It's the loveliest day of summer, and other girls are out walking with their sweethearts. And I shall pretend what I choose.
Very well.
No! Stop it! You are making me think these things. It's not true. Oh God, I am not capable of such wickedness. Never stop saying such things.
What were the thoughts that came to you when you were walking that day with your brother-in-law?
Yes, I shall. Why should I not pretend?
My dear sister-in-law, it is not fair of you to pretend to be my sweetheart when I, as a married man, may not pretend to be yours.
I don't care if it's fair or not. It's the loveliest day of summer, and other girls are out walking with their sweethearts. And I shall pretend what I choose. Gunther, what is it?
Oh my God. I can't tell you.
You can tell me, Gunther. Trust me. I was Father's best friend and confidant, you know. I can be yours too.
Not about this.
What is it?
I never loved your sister. It was you I loved from the first day I came to the house, but you were a girl of 16. I hoped that by marrying Lily I would come to love her, but I cannot stop thinking of you. When I'm with her, it is you I see. When I make love to her, it is your alluring body I conjure up. Your tender caresses I long for with every centimeter of my heart.
All right. It was easy to prove to her that the fantasies she herself admitted could offer no other interpretation other than that she had long been head over heels in love with her brother-in-law. But it was a very long time before I could convince her that we are not responsible for our feelings. She was reluctant to forgive herself for what she considered to be great wickedness towards her late sister, even though it was only in fantasy. Eventually, I was able to get across that her falling ill in these circumstances, in somaticizing her guilt in the form of her hysterical symptoms, was sufficient evidence of her moral character. But I didn't stop at psychoanalysis alone to effect the full cure. I also ordered her to go out to parties with people of her own age, to stop wearing black and a mournful expression on her face wherever she went, and She followed these prescriptions as diligently as though they had been medicine tablets to be swallowed 4 times daily. This positive response inspired me to take an even more friendly interest in her life.
Dr. Freud, so good to see you.
Oh, Annie, how are you?
No better for having seen my naturopath, I assure you, but no worse either. I have decided that my whole problem is due to poor diet and insufficient exercise. Well, you won't agree with that, of course.
My dear lady, there is no substitute for a well-balanced diet and moderate constitutional exercise daily. Of course, you should resume your therapy with me as well.
Now, none of that just now, Doctor. Your patient is Elizabeth. She seems to walk without any pains at all. I don't know whether to thank you or the gynecologist for that. Do you think she's cured?
Absolutely not. I must tell you that she is suffering from the oldest disease known to mankind. She is in love.
Oh, piffle. I've known that for some time, Doctor. I'll find her a husband and for that. But surely you don't mean to suggest that there's nothing else wrong with her.
That is exactly what I am suggesting. Nothing wrong but the exhilarating feelings of love, combined with the guilt about feeling that way towards her brother-in-law, expressed in the horror, I suspect, at noticing the physical manifestations of his sexual interest.
For that, you went to medical school?
These last 3 years have been stressful for your daughter, as they have been for you, of course. But Frau Amy, I hope you'll forgive me if I seem to meddle in your family affairs.
Go on.
May I ask for how long you have known with whom your daughter has been in love?
Elizabeth had a schoolgirl infatuation with Gunther from the day he walked into our house.
Then, do you think, having been bereaved more than a year now, and with your grandchild to raise, that he might be interested in marrying Elizabeth?
I know it for a fact. Gunther wrote to me 3 months ago proposing to do exactly that.
Well, that's wonderful!
My dear Dr. Freud, it is not wonderful. I could find a better match for Elizabeth. Oh, Gunther's prospects were good at one time, but he clearly has not made the success of himself that my late husband and I had hoped. Oh, I trust you will not tell Elizabeth his proposal.
Oh, but Madame, there's love! Is there...
I don't wish to speak further of the matter. Frankly, Doctor, love has nothing to do with it.
Love has nothing to do with marriage? Oi! What am I, a marriage broker? This is a time to step aside. You can lead your patients to understanding, but you cannot make them act it. Let me end this lecture by admitting to you that I was almost as far from solving the mystery of Fräulein Elizabeth's symptoms when I completed her analysis as I was from solving the mystery of her mother's symptoms when that lady terminated her own cure so abruptly and prematurely. You might say that we found the reason for the daughter's hysteria, but not the how. It originated in her anxiety over sexual arousal, confused with the seductive aspects of her relationship with her father, and no doubt unintentional on his part. Her symptoms served to keep far from her own awareness that she longed for her late sister's husband, a sin made all the worse when that sister died. But yet, there is nothing to explain why it was particularly from hysteria that she fell ill, nor why her hysteria took the particular form of a limp and sore leg. We are tempted to explain away the problem by saying that the patient must have had a constitutional tendency towards hysteria. But the truth is, we have absolutely no idea how it is that mental pains are converted into physical pains. No idea at all. Now, as you leave the lecture hall, I must warn those of you gentlemen that spoke that some self-styled comedians with but little knowledge of psychology cannot resist on occasions such as this but to make phallic jokes. My advice to you is to ignore them as tactfully as possible.